In this video, we are going to work on creating the charts with Excel. We're going to look at how you select correct chart type based on the data you want to visualize. We're going to work and create several chart type. We're going to put all of them in a separate worksheet, and we're gonna look how you create the bar column chart, how you create the line chart, pie chart, and how you create the chart with two axes and different type of charts. You put it in one graph. Let's look at the couple of data samples. First, we're gonna look at the regional sales summary of some company that report their sales by region, by quarter. So we have data for each quarter, for each region, 4 regions, and data by quarter. I want to compare how much sales each region brought in each quarter, and I want to be able to compare it side by side, sales for each region and for each quarter. For this type of data, the bar column chart work well. It will give you the visual representation of the data that you will be able to compare. Let's start creating the bar chart. You need to select the data you want to plot. So I'm going to plot my regions, quarter data, and I'm not including any totals. I don't want them in my chart. After selecting the data, you go to the menu, select Insert, and then you select the chart type. I'm going to be using the column bar charts here, and when you click on that, it will give you different options. You can create 2D column, 3D column, and other types, but 2D column will work well for this chart. And based on your version of the Excel, it might even suggest you the chart type for the data you selected. Select the 2D column chart, and Excel immediately plays the chart next to my data. Some version of Excel will ask you whether you want to have your data in the same worksheet or in a separate. For now I'm keeping it here just to look at that, and I can see that I have data for each quarter and for each region, and each region data are shown using the different colors so I can compare. That's what I want to see. I want to work more on my chart and make it more readable. So I'm going to copy this chart. I'm going to cut this chart using Ctrl-X command, and I'm going to place it in a different worksheet where I'm going to be keeping all my charts. And since I'm using the bar column chart, that's where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to just paste the chart right here. Now, to make it more readable, I want to add a title for my chart. I'm clicking on the plot area, and then I'm looking at the the chart tool menu, and I'm going to layout. And here there are a lot of options of different things I can add to my chart. I'm going to select the chart title, and I want to place my title above the chart itself. So I'm selecting this option, and there is a text box added above the chart for me to edit and add the title for my graph, and that's gonna be regional sales by quarter. So the title will tell anyone who is going to look at my graph what the data they are looking at. Also, I kind of want to see how much each region brought sales in each quarter were recorded. So for that, I can add the data labels, or I can add the data table. So data label, you can click on data label and it will ask you where you want to put your data. And let's say I want to put it outside and it's the cells, regional cells for this particular region are displayed above the region. If I'm going to be adding cells numbers for each of my region, my chart would be overcrowded with the numbers and it will be hard to read. To avoid this, but still have all the region cells by quarter, I can add the data table. Let's remove the data label first. Click on the data label and then just remove them. And then I'm gonna click on the plot area and I'm gonna add the data table. And I want my data table not only shows the data, but the legend key as well, just to know what color represent what region. And after I click that, the data table is added below the chart. It has a region, it has a color for each region, and it has their quarter sales data. So now I don't need this legend on the right that shows their colors for the region because I have it here. I'm going to click on my legend and I'm going to remove it by going to legend and select none, or I can just delete it. So now I have all my regional cells side by side for each quarter, and I can actually see the actual sales value for each region. That's about how I want my chart to be for this data. Let's look at the different type of charts. Let's say I want to show my total sales by quarter, just total sales by quarter. And I want to see how their sales were changed quarter over quarter. I'm going to select my quarters and I'm going to select the totals. And to select the data that are not adjusted to each other, you hold Control in PC or Command in Mac. So I select my data. For this type of data, I'm going to be using the line chart type. It's good to use a line chart to represent the change in data over time, and that's what I want to show. I want to show how my sales data change over quarter. So again, I selected my data. I'm gonna go to Insert and select the line chart type. And it's going to be 2D line, and I want to have data point on my line. I want to have the line with markers. That's the chart I'm gonna select, and that is my chart. It has my total sales by quarter, and I can see how it's changed over time, how it changed from the quarter number 1 to quarter number 4. I'm also gonna place this chart to my to the separate worksheet where I keep all my charts, and I'm gonna put it under the line chart section right here. I also want to add the title for this chart, so I select the plot area, go to the layout chart tools menu and select chart title. I want it to be above my chart, and I'm gonna name it total sales by quarter. That's about all I want to do with this chart. It's a very simple chart, good representation of my total sales change over time. Let's look when you use a pie chart. Pie charts are usually used when you show the proportions of total, when you want to compare the parts of some total and see what portion of your total came from different sources. For this example, I want to see how much total sales each region brought over the year. So I'm going to be using this data and present them on their pie chart. So I'm selecting my regions and I'm selecting the totals without the grand total, only yearly sales by region. And I'm going to be using their pie chart, so I'm going to insert and select the pie chart type. The different pie chart you can create, 2D, 3D. I'm going to be using just 3D in this case. So that is my preset chart. Again, I'm going to move it to my chart worksheet. And I'm going to place that in the pie chart section. Now, again, I start with adding the title. Click on the plot area, go to layout and add the chart title. And above the chart, my title would be regional sales as a percentage of total. Total sales. I have my colors, I have my slices of the pie, but I want to know the percentage by itself, the percentage that this slice represent. I'm gonna click on my pie chart and I'm gonna right click on that, and I'm gonna go and select their format plot. Oh, not data point. It's gonna be okay, hold on a second. So let's add their data label first, and then we will convert them into the percentages. So select your chart, click to select the whole chart, and then let's go to the data label and add the label in the center of each slice. You can do it each slice separately, or you can select all of them. Hopefully it's gonna work this way, and okay, let's select all of them, the rest whatever left, and add the data label to each slide. Again, if you select all of them at once, you can add the data label to all of them at once. Now click on your data labels, try to select all of them. I did it now, and right click, and now let's do format data label, and from label options I will select percentage instead of values, and that's what I'm gonna try to show. And now I don't need the values, so again right click, go to the format data labels, and unclick values, and close it. Now you're gonna have only percentage, and you can see that like Northeast brought 47% of all your total sales. To make it more visible, you can change the color of your labels, the size, by selecting the data label. Again, right click, format data label, and then you can go to the numbers. It's fine for now, and you can fill automatic color and all that. So we just gonna leave it as well as it is now, but you can change anything about your label that you don't like. That's a good chart that represent the original sales as a percentage of total sales. Sometimes you want to show on the same chart the data that kind of not directly related to each other, but instead of putting different chart together, you want to put in one chart. For example, if we look at the other example, it has the transaction summary that was generated from the company website server, and we have the daily statistics that will show us site visits, transactions, and total sales, meaning that's how many times their user visits the site, and transaction represent how many times their customer actually purchased something, if we're talking about their e-commerce type of site. And this is how much sales was generated in terms of dollars. So if I want to show the site visits and transactions and my total sales at the same chart, and at the same time I want to have my sites visit and transactions side by side to compare, to kind of see my conversion rate, which is transactions over as a percentage of sales, of sites visit, sorry. And at the same time, I want to see how my total sales change from day to day over time. To me, it sounds like I want to put in the same chart the bar chart and the line chart. And it's possible to do in Excel as well. And let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to select my data, which is going to be my days, site visit, transactions, and total sales. And first, I'm going to start with just inserting the column chart, 2D column. And of course, if you can see, the green represent my total sales, and the red and blue sites visit and transactions. And because of there's such a huge difference in their unit measure, I can see only total sales, and I can barely see that there is something below that represents sites visit and transactions. That's not gonna work. I need to have a different axis that will have their measures for my visits and transactions versus their dollar total sales. I'm gonna click on my total sales, and I'm gonna right click on that, and select format data series, and instead of plotting it on a primary axis, I will switch to secondary axis, and I close it. So now if you can see, I have a secondary axis that has dollars measurement of my total sales, and on the left my primary axis shows their visits, site visit and transactions completed. Again, it's not very readable because I have their green total sales over my site visits and transactions. So I want the total sales be represented by line graph, not a bar chart. To do that, I select my my green bars for total sales. I right click on it and I select change series chart type. And instead of selecting the column, I will use their line for my cells with markers. And click OK. And you can see that now my total cells are represented by line graph, which is appropriate. It shows the change in my total sales over time from Monday to Sunday. And I still have my site visit and transaction side by side as a bar, and I can see how my sales were converted into their transactions for each day. I will take this chart to my charts worksheet, and I'm gonna place it under the charts list 2 axis right here. Now I'm gonna add the title, of course, and it's gonna be titled web site transaction summary, for example. And I want to add my data table to have my data below their chart with a legend. So I'm gonna go and add the data table with legend keys. I'm gonna remove my legend. I can go to legend and do none, or I can just delete it. And I'm gonna resize my chart area to have enough space to show all my data, and you can just drag it to any corner and just expand to there till you can see all the data and everything is readable. And that's the chart that represent their total sales and change in the total sales over time, and at the same time it led me to compare the site visits to transactions. That's main chart types that we're gonna use for their assignments as well.